Hi everyone, I'm Kadiba Devine and welcome to 12 News in Focus. Every week we take a look back at some of the great stories brought to you from our 12 News journalists. On today's show, a Valley man wins a life-changing $1.4 million jackpot and lessons from a World War II veteran. But first, how the largest reptile sanctuary in the U.S. cares for critters of all sizes.
The Phoenix Herpetological Sanctuary is home to more than 1,600 critters at their facility in North Scottsdale. Now, it all started in 2001 with 3 people and 1 dream. Meet the dream team, Dan, Debbie, and Russ. 3 friends who took this property and transformed it into the largest reptile sanctuary in the U.S.
We work with Arizona Game and Fish a lot on confiscation, because in the old days, illegal animals like crocodiles, alligators, venomous snakes had to be basically put down.
90% of the animals at PHS are pet trade type animals, meaning people bit off more than they could chew when thinking a lizard would be a good lap pet.
The thing that we're trying to get across is what makes a good pet, what makes a bad pet. Bad pets end up here, and it costs us a lot of money to take care of these things. We don't put animals down just to make room for new animals. If I get full, we're gonna have to turn animals down. So far, we've not had to do that.
Originally, the Dream Team started with just 26 animals, and now the 2.5-acre facility is home to more than 1,600 species, including snakes, both venomous and not, lizards, tortoises, and plenty of furry friends, which means 25 years after they started, there are a lot more mouths to feed, including this little guy here, Yeti, a massive American crocodile measuring 15 feet long and weighing a whopping 1,000 pounds. What are you going to do here?
Well, we're gonna offer Yeti a couple of whole chickens here. You can come around here. I just want you to know you have nothing to worry about unless you see me running, okay? All right, big boy, let's go. Okay, and if you'll notice, he's swallowing about a 6.5-pound chicken like you and I would swallow a Tic Tac.
Each animal at the sanctuary has a different story for how they got here, from a teenage boy who ordered an alligator by mail to an abandoned pet croc rescued from the Grand Canyon. But that's just a small sample of the stories you could hear firsthand.
Now, normally the only way you can explore our property are through guided tours by me, one of my amazing coworkers, our education team give guided tours around the facility. But on June 6th, you're going to be able to come to our property, walk around. You're going to see scheduled feedings of our venomous snakes, crocodilians, kind of like what you saw with Russ today. We're going to have special guest speakers, food trucks, drinks, and it's 21 plus too. So it's going to be a one-of-a-kind event that we're going to be throwing.
Other ways to help PHS is through donations online and virtual adoptions. Yes, it's a thing. We're going to post a link with more information on our website. Reporting for 12 News, I'm Ginger Jeffries.
A man from Mesa walked into Gila River Resorts and Casinos Lone Butte on Sunday night and walked out a millionaire.
I would guess he was pretty happy about that.
General Manager Jackie Johnson says the lucky player sat right here at the It's Alive Frankenstein slot machine and bet $15 on a spin. What happened next was life-changing.
Super exciting. There was a huge jackpot here, $1.4 million.
$1.4 million, the third largest payout in Gila River Casino's history.
It's a large progressive, so it builds over time, and it had been building for quite a while. He hit.
Behind the scenes, casino staff scrambled to verify the massive win.
They have to verify the jackpot, which can take a little bit of time. They actually had to call the manufacturer of the slot machine to make sure that all was good, so that takes a little while. It takes several departments to coordinate the payout, and I think between all of us, we were just ecstatic for this gentleman.
It took hours of paperwork, but by the end of the night, the newly minted millionaire was finally on his way home with a 7-figure check. He's asked to remain anonymous.
It's wonderful to work at a job where you can change people's lives for the better. It's an amazing feeling. We are so happy for him.
The casino says more than $256 million in jackpots have already been awarded across Gila River's 4 properties so far this year. In Chandler, Kyle Simchuk, 12 News.
The 1960s, a time of social change and idealism. It was also a time of war. America was embroiled in the meat grinder of Vietnam. And a young Rick Romley, just a few months out of high school, walked into a Tucson Marine recruiting station and signed up. It was 1968.
You know, I joined the Marine Corps with my best friend, David Schaefer. And just a short time after I was wounded, he was killed in Vietnam. it touched me, very, very, very personally. I named my first son after him. And so I think of that sacrifice. And not just them.
By 1969, Romley was in Da Nang, Vietnam, about as close as you could come to hell on earth.
I could have been one of those veterans that, committed suicide that too many veterans do nowadays because of my war injuries.
It was a landmine that shredded Romley's body. Both legs were gone, and he had a ton of shrapnel in his gut. Surgery after surgery would follow. But that same dogged determination that would one day make him a fierce Maricopa County attorney not only pushed him to survive, it also changed him.
I actually think I'm stronger because of those war injuries. It forced me to recognize the good, sometimes the limitations that you might have, but you become stronger and you realize that you have a strength inside of you, and hopefully it pushes you to the good side.
Vietnam left its mark on Romley, as it did so many others. But instead of succumbing to the injuries that no one could see, he instead found purpose.
When you find that there's something greater than yourself, me, I had to raise my boys. I was a single parent. You begin to realize that can be the most gratifying in your entire life.
And that's the message that Rick Romley wants America to hear as we near our 250th birthday. Service and sacrifice can be life-changing. He wants his fellow Americans to listen to their hearts and not the noise.
I think take a moment and remember and reflect upon that service and sacrifice. Don't lose it. Don't give it up for the craziness of today's politics. That's not who we are as Americans. We just aren't that way. We are a giving country. We've always been that way. Just take a moment to reflect and honor those that give so much. And, if you disagree with them, okay, disagree with them. But don't hate them. Don't hate them.
And coming up, how a simulation lab prepares nurses for real-world medical care.
Finger stick is something they learn right out the gate in first semester.
Locate my site.
Then a puncture is one we do in second semester. In third semester, we do teach them how to start IVs and do fluids because now they're in a clinical, more of acute care setting.
The foundations of nursing, all built inside this lab at Pima Medical Institute, right down to patient interactions, everything simulated to mirror real-life care.
We push hard because at the end of the day, they do have lives in their hands.
Because the pressure will be on when they step into real-life settings. Arizona is facing the largest nursing shortage in the country, a projected 28,000 short. Nursing program director Jennifer Morelli says the strain isn't just about empty positions, it's about what happens to patients when there aren't enough nurses to go around.
Units that once maybe had a ratio of like 1 to 5, they're now seeing 1 to 6, 1 to 7. It's hard to give quality care when you have 8 patients at a time that you're trying to see.
Fifth semester student Yasmin Arcades is already stacking real-world experience with her classes, working overnights as a clerk at a Tucson emergency department. She sees the shortage firsthand.
Sometimes it's just a lot. Burnout is ridiculously high.
She's determined to help stop the bleeding.
If you have the compassion and the empathy and you want to help people, I think healthcare and nursing specifically is one of the best.
Care with compassion is key for Paulina Aguirre.
I had a phenomenal nurse who treated me more like a human than a patient, and I think that really changed my perspective on healthcare.
Her own hospital stay shaped her path into pediatrics.
I think it's really important to treat the patients more like people rather than just room number. I think that's a huge change that I want to make when I become a nurse.
Both will be workforce ready when they graduate in August, thanks to PMI's Accelerated Associate Degree in Nursing program, getting students to the bedside in about 20 months. And while the need is urgent,
they are ready to hit the ground running.
Morelli says the solution isn't just in graduation rates, it's in the kind of nurses her students become.
The quality of student that we're putting out there and quality of nurse that we're putting out there is huge. They're full of compassion and empathy. They're phenomenal.
All of the streets have been cleared. Some of the damage still needs to be repaired, but people who live across Tempe tell me they still remember that day like it was yesterday.
I remember that day very well.
October 13th is now etched in Tempe history as the day this detrimental storm wreaked havoc across the city.
This is the biggest storm in Tempe history, I think, in living memory. Yeah, I don't think anybody remembers a storm this large hitting our area.
A powerful microburst carrying torrential rain and extreme wind struck around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, leaving downed trees and power lines in every direction.
Tempe was post-apocalyptic, especially in this neighborhood.
Andrew Porwancher says he was at home in Tempe's Maple Ash neighborhood when his decades-old tree uprooted in his front yard.
And all of a sudden, we hear this massive boom, and we feel the house shake, and we jump back into each other's arms.
The storm lasted only minutes, but the damage took weeks to clean up.
These winds were raging at such extraordinary speeds that just a few minutes were sufficient to inflict extraordinary damage on the neighborhood.
Assistant Fire Chief Daryl Duty says the worst of it hit near Kyrene and Baseline roads and also along Mill Avenue. That's where extreme winds ripped a section of the roof off of this industrial building and people were trapped in apartments.
We ran over 234 911 calls that day.
Today, both of those sites are still rebuilding.
Recovery's still going on. If you drive in that area, there are still tarps on roofs and repairs still waiting to happen.
This storm that shocked so many is just another reminder that Arizona's weather is unlike anywhere else.
The sun came out relatively quickly, and so there was this sort of weird disjuncture between the damage wrought on the neighborhood and the sunlight shining down from the heavens on Tempe, and it was sort of a reminder that, you're still in Arizona.
The assistant fire chief tells me it's really a miracle that they didn't have to transport anyone to the hospital that day for injuries related to this storm. The city of Tempe declared a state of emergency following the storm, and businesses were able to apply for disaster relief loans. In Tempe, Gabriela Becerra, 12 News.
If you have a chance to hang out with Jack Toller, he might just bust out a tune for you.
Did your lady friend leave the nest again?
Jack served 3 years in the Army Air Corps during World War II.
I flew C-47s, B-26s, C-46s. Yeah, they were cargo. It's like driving a bus. Not much you can do with it.
He flew in the Pacific Theater, delivering supplies to the ground troops.
We would fly a lot of gasoline wherever it was needed. And we moved a lot of men around wherever they were needed.
He looks back fondly on the men that he flew with.
I had some of the greatest guys you could ever be with. We got together after the war, and we got together once a year for a reunion.
But when the war ended, so did his flying career.
I got married, and my wife said, "Your flying days are over." And that was that.
While the country he helped protect gets ready to celebrate 250 years, Jack also has a big birthday coming up.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I'm getting one. Yeah, you get one every year. Gosh.
And he's had a lot of birthdays.
I'm 103 right now. I'll be 104 in another couple of weeks.
Jack says the key to his longevity wasn't healthy living or genetics. It's even sweeter than that.
I had a good wife. That says it all, right there. She was lovable. She was always there. Took care of 5 great kids for me. We shared a great life, and that's what it's all about.
Jack may not be as excited about his upcoming birthday, but he's still singing a happy tune.
Last night I slept in Detroit City. I don't remember the rest of it. Sorry.
Coming up, ASU Sun Devils mascot Sparky reveals their secret.
Here at the Maricopa County Courthouse, any member of the public can come and view a trial, an arraignment, or any other hearing because it's meant to be a public process. But there's one thing that happens here inside these walls that is meant to be a secret. It is the grand jury process. But today, we're going to give you an inside look at how it all works. Come with me. It all begins with a questionnaire in the mail, asking prospective grand jurors to answer a list of questions.
Before the jurors are supposed to come in to see whether or not there were any hardship or cause strikes so the jurors don't have to travel all the way down to the court to just be excused.
If you are not excused, you arrive at the jury assembly room at the Maricopa County Courthouse. So the first step for every grand juror each day that they're called is to come to this room. This is the jury assembly room. This is where they all gather together as a 16-person body before they go to a secretive courtroom to hear the grand jury proceeding. Commissioner Nick Ciccone is one of 2 judicial officers that selects that grand jury, 16 people plus 10 alternates. In Maricopa County, there could be 4 to 6 grand juries working in any given month.
The goal is we want individuals to serve on our grand juries who can be fair, impartial, and decide the case based only on the evidence and the law presented to the jury or grand jury.
That's the role of a grand jury, summoned to a secret courtroom in downtown Phoenix, where 2 times a week for a period of 4 months, they hear evidence and witness testimony from prosecutors at the Maricopa County Attorney's Office.
And they present the evidence to the grand jury, and the grand jury decides the charges.
For most cases, Commissioner Ciccone says the presentation of evidence takes 20 minutes per case. The grand jurors have the opportunity to ask witnesses questions themselves before deliberating amongst themselves. Unlike a jury in a criminal trial, a defense attorney for the accused is not present in the courtroom. And instead of needing a unanimous guilty verdict to convict, only 9 of the 16 grand jurors must agree that there is probable cause a crime was committed. But if they don't,
they have 2 options. They can either stop deliberating and not return an indictment, or they can request additional evidence and witnesses to come in.
That's partially why the grand jury proceedings are done in secret.
If the public learned about everyone that was investigated by a grand jury, it could really be detrimental to those individuals. We want to protect the grand jurors and witnesses that appear in front of the grand jury because we want them to be able to view the evidence without any outside influence. So it's not a public process because we don't want the witnesses to be influenced.
If the grand jury does return an indictment, the court clerk's office is who notifies the defendant, ordering them to appear at a future court date called a summons, or by issuing a warrant for their arrest.
We either will send the documents through the mail. The sheriff's office assists with the service part of warrants. We, as the clerk's office, will remain neutral, but it's our 100% job to preserve that record.
Last year, the judicial branch summoned more than 12,600 people to serve on Maricopa County grand jury panels, and over the last 20 years, there have been 930 grand juries convened right here in America's 4th largest county. You have people from all walks of life, ages, genders, education levels, yet everybody can come together and still hear the same evidence and have their own viewpoint. Would you say that that is how the system was created?
I think so. Absolutely, because we trust our citizens to make the right decisions. With whether it's trial juries or grand juries, we trust the citizens. We know that they're going to be fair because you walk around the grocery store and those could be people on your grand jury.
Sean Rice, 12 News.
When we talk about drought, we usually talk about water scarcity, but it's also about power. The reduced amount of water passing through Glen Canyon, down the Colorado River, 300 miles to Lake Mead, is expected to impact Hoover Dam's ability to produce power in the fall, and that could impact all of us.
It's all connected: drought, snowpack, water runoff, and hydropower generated by these marvels of technology. The dams have served us well, but Lake Powell and Lake Mead are at crisis levels. Water Director Tom Bushatsky is chief negotiator for Colorado River Resources.
Well, it's going to go down to an elevation in which we're going to lose a bunch of hydropower generation. And again, you're kind of using up your bank account, right?
He says water levels may drop another 20 feet by the end of the year at Lake Mead.
I think you lose about 80% of the hydro generation when you get to that elevation at Lake Mead.
Okay, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
About 20% of Hoover's generation goes to our state. So where will power companies in the Southwest get that lost electricity?
You've got to go on the grid to find it. You have to assume, since they're going onto the grid, and hydropower is one of the cheaper sources of power, you could expect that impact to occur.
As Governor Katie Hobbs prepares to visit the Lake Mead region tomorrow, she declined to speculate on how the water shortage could affect electricity markets.
I'm concerned about any actions that are going to increase costs for Arizonans and others, and that's why we've been fighting so hard to ensure that we're protecting the infrastructure and the power generation at Lake Mead.
Joe Dana, 12 News.
79 years. Sparky the Sun Devil has been ASU's mascot for 79 years, running out with the team, entertaining fans, and no one knows who's in the suit. They don't tell anyone until they graduate. Well, this Sparky just graduated.
Everyone wants to know who Sparky is.
Yes.
And then you take that off and the hair falls down. Everyone's like,
what? Yeah, I feel like I almost had a heart attack. My finger was shaking over the post button on it on Instagram. I'm like, I've never told anyone this information before.
Sydney Linden Lake has been Sparky for the last 3.5 years. Football games, baseball, hockey, heat, cold, a scarecrow costume she made herself, wins and losses, without ever telling anyone.
This is something I've been able to keep under wraps for the past 3.5 years, and it's been a hard secret, but when you love something so much, you're willing to do anything for it.
okay,
so.
did anybody ever come up to you and directly ask you, are you Sparky?
Oh, absolutely. I've had friends who have tried to fry me, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
In the entire history of ASU, only 2 women have ever been Sparky. Sydney is the most recent.
The softball team, they will play a game where they try to guess who I am.
In front of you?
Yes, in the dugout, and I'm like, no.
No one really keeps track, but most mascot performers are traditionally guys, as most mascots are guys. But this year, the mascot reveal videos have had some surprises. A surprising number of big school mascots have been women the whole time. The reaction to Sydney's coming out video has been huge.
I was getting phone calls every 2 minutes, Sydney, oh my gosh, you're Sparky?
This is you.
The man, the myth, the legend, Sparky the Sun Devil.
Not the man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, the woman, the myth, the legend.
Sydney's graduated, so she can talk about being the face of Arizona State University.
You want to touch it?
Oh, heck yeah. Are you kidding? Oh my God, it's heavy.
She'll turn in the pitchfork and continue to the real world, where she hopes to keep working in sports entertainment. Now part of a long line of secret Sparkies.
And you're part of that unbroken 79 years of history.
Yeah, it's been such an honor and such a privilege.
In Tempe, with Sparky, William Pitts, 12 News.
Thanks everyone for watching, and just a reminder, new episodes of 12 News in Focus premiere every Friday on the 12 News app. You can also watch past episodes. It's easy, just download the 12 News app on your TV devices and you can watch for free. I'm Kariba Devine. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend.